Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another evening with Minnesota Liberty podcast. Tonight we're joined by tonight Brian Paulson and Joey G joins us tonight. Brian has an interesting story to talk about with his experiences in his hometown area down south of the cities in New Prague, and it was quite interesting following along as much as I could, but I didn't get as in depth as Joey did. And I think Joey helped Brian out quite a bit throughout this whole process. But sounds like the city of New Prague tried to pull a fast one and approve some money that the city really wasn't aware of. And but I don't want to take any words out of Brian's mouth. So welcome, Brian, and Joey with the no camera. But
yeah, I do what I can, but unfortunately today a camera I cannot do.
Joey does what he can, and he does a lot. So we always appreciate Joey. So Brian, why don't you start us off with maybe how did you catch wind of this fiasco going on where, the city's kind of maybe a little scuttlebutt about. That's a Navy term, by the way. Brian and I are both Navy guys, former sailors, even though I never set foot on a ship. But, hearing a little scuttlebutt about the, hey, we need a new police station for our 4 square miles of city.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the intro. I guess to kind of get my mindset, I grew up mostly in Shakopee, which kind of famously really blew up. They put in the Bloomington Ferry Bridge, and the city in 1995, when I moved there, was about 10,000 people. And today it is, I think, over 50,000. And Shakopee was really growing really fast. They did like to grow their government probably bigger than they should have. So I did leave for the Navy, like you mentioned, 2009. And when I came back, Shakopee was too big. And I didn't want to be in a city that large with that many people. I was looking for a little bit smaller community. So I chose New Prague. I moved to New Prague in about 2017 with my wife. I took her out of Virginia Beach, so she likes Minnesota. But then I was here in New Prague since 2017, kind of keeping an eye on the local politics a little bit, but not really getting involved. And then we can talk about a little bit later. What first got me involved was tax abatements that they decided to start doing. And I kind of found that the tax abatement meeting had about 50 people. It was really packed. And it definitely seemed like they had already made their mind up before the public hearing for that. And that was 2014, maybe September-ish. It was at that point I decided to get involved, and I went to every single city council meeting but one since then, and I just wanted to watch them and see what they're doing, seeing what they're up to. And they were talking about building a police station. They kept talking about in the meetings in 2024. It's something in the future. We're going to do this eventually. So we have this construction company that did a facility study. Well, it's kind of interesting. So this company, Wold Construction, is an architectural firm. They did a facility study, and wouldn't you guess, they said that New Prague needs a bunch of new facilities and facilities. So they also happen to be getting, cut, and the larger the bill, the more they get paid. So they kind of pitched it as, we're not doing it right now. We're not going to build a police station right now. It's in the future, but we can plan for it. We can get the plans built, and we can pay for that. And then sometime in the future, we can use those plans. They already had built a fire station in like 2007, I think it was, and they planned to attach a police station. So that always was planned to do it there. So real late in 2024, things started kind of moving fast. And they have this thing called the vision document, and it's like every year they pass it, and it's their 5-year plan, what they envision in the next 5 years. And they'll put things on there, and some come to fruition and some don't. Well, the police station wasn't even on the 5-year plan.
And that came out in 24.
Every year they do a new one. So in the 2024 plan, which would be the newest one, they didn't even have it in there to be built in 2020
9 or
9, yeah, until December. So the last month of the year, it gets added to the vision plan to be built in 2025. And then this is where they start kind of moving a little faster. Mind you, we just in December also had our tax meeting where the city's budget increased over 10%. So, and that was with no big project building. That was just normal
costs, expenses, and increases because inflation and everything. Yep. I'm sure.
Well, our county was 3.5%. So I'm not sure how the sewer county was able to
sure
around 3.5%, but the city wasn't. And so they increased the taxes quite a bit. One of the council members asked to cut some things on there. They didn't cut a single item. It was just kind of interesting as I took a look at it. The very first item on their stuff to spend in 2025 at least was new furniture for the city hall. Well, they already have furniture. It all works. It's all there, So then they spent, I forget if it was $30,000 maybe, give or take, for new furniture, and then a couple months later I see it all the old stuff getting torn out, new stuff putting in. So it's not like it was all necessity stuff.
Yeah.
So then they have the police station on the vision budget or in the vision list. And then I think it was in February, maybe, they decide to go out for bids. They had gotten back from the architect, which I had sent you the drawings of it. So do you have that? Can you bring that up? Or?
Yeah, hold on.
So people can kind of see what they're building. Mind you, New Prague is 8,200 people. So that's the size of the city. Police department, I think, is about 12 officers.
You're talking about this drawing?
Yep. So that is the police station there. You'll see the indoor parking garage is 12 stalls, has a car wash bay. I'm not sure how many cops are going to be washing their own cars when they can just run them through the car wash. We had 12 stalls. I don't even think they have that many cars. Just to compare, New Ulm, the city of New Ulm, which I think is about twice the size of New Prague, has 2 indoor stalls. Brown County, that they share with, has 4 indoor stalls.
That's actually really great information, right? I mean, think about that, the comparison now. Is there any type of talk about expansion? Man, I tell you what, one of the things, and this is well before I got involved in any kind of politics, but the Met Council, and is New Prague fall under the Met Council?
Interesting you asked that. So Met Council, is it 5 or 7 counties? I forget what it was, but it includes Scott County, except for New Prague. So New Prague straddles Le Sueur and Scott County. Main Street splits it, right? So the north half, thank God that they carved out New Prague city limits.
So you're on the western side of the wall, the Berlin Wall.
Yeah. So they carved out New Prague, and then we did not get included in the Met Council. And then there is another thing that's similar to the Met Council called Region 9. It's not as official, but it's the same concept. And I think that's 11 counties out of Mankato, and they included Le Sueur County, but they did not include the north half of New Prague. So the north half of New Prague is a little island.
What?
Part of either. So
that's pretty wicked. Is that exactly where you live, in the north half?
No, I like low taxes, so I decided to get out of Scott County, and I went on the Le Sueur side, which has lower taxes than Scott County and less regulations.
Gotcha. Yep. No,
but it's interesting you asked, because they pitched this as a big station, and they say, well, we're going to grow into it. Well, last week they had the new population, the census came out, right? So guess what? 2 years in a row, New Prague has lost residents.
Dang.
People are leaving.
This is just dumb bleep for sure.
In fact, we have more residents living here in 2019 than we do today. So why are people leaving?
Well, they wisened up, man, in the last 5 years. New Prague was that country of the folks out in the country are probably, all right, F this Minnesota politics stuff. Yeah.
So people are leaving, And, the city has, in the last few years now, we have a new city administrator. I forget what year he started, maybe 3-4 years ago. And, I think he wants, when people go into those positions, they have a certain mentality and they want to grow the city, right? And the people have different views of that, right? Me, I want to grow the wealth, right? I want the city to be wealthier and better off. That doesn't necessarily mean population, but some people just think strictly growing population is beneficial, and then you can compare like two cities in the suburbs here. You can look at like Burnsville or Wyzetta, right? Where I don't know the populations, but like they're vastly different. And just because you have tons of people, it doesn't mean you're going to be like Wyzetta.
That's actually where I brought up the Met Council thing, because here on the east side of the cities, where back in 2010, Lake Elmo is a small eastern suburb here that their city council said we want to stay, rural. We don't want to be Woodbury. We see that Woodbury exploded with population, and we see all the crap that they're dealing with, and we don't want that. We don't want that. But Metropolitan Council said, no, you must have 30,000 residents by 2020. And I thought, this isn't the way government works. And sure enough, that's exactly what it is. So that's why.
And the Met Council withholds the taxes. I had meant to compare it to not Burnsville, but Shakopee. But the Met Council, if you don't do what they say, and this is from what I've heard, is that they'll, you pay the county the taxes, and then they give it to the cities, right? Normally, but with the Met Council, they actually, I guess, withhold those funds. And we had talked to I talked to Kara Schultz, who was on the Burnsville City Council, who I guess Burnsville had sued the Met Council because they didn't do what the Met Council wanted. And I guess the courts ruled in the favor of the Met Council.
That's so scary. That's
where they have high density housing or whatever it may be that, requirements that cities get levied onto them. So luckily New Prague doesn't have that. But, I think the city administrator, has good intentions, right? Like most people in politics, they usually like mean well. We just have different ideas of what success is and how to get there.
And different ideas of the meaning of value or the dollar. Like there's two different things there. And some folks see that, there's $350,000 there, it must be valuable. It's like, that's not necessarily the truth. I don't see Joey, but I keep picturing him being like he wants to say something. You got anything you want to say, Joey?
No, it's a really, really long time ago, but Brian, I do just want to correct your fake news. You said 2014 when you meant to say 2024. Like the first time you said 2024, you actually said 2014.
Oh,
when you're talking
like
about
I moved in 2017, and then in 2014 I started going to city council meetings.
Oh yes, I meant 2024. I started going in around September. So it was the tax abatement that the school decided to also chip in and do a tax abatement. And for anyone that's not familiar with the tax abatement is basically so the school is a taxing entity, and the county, and so is the city, and they collect your property taxes. They get it gets divided up, about third-ish. And they can decide to not collect taxes from you. Technically, you do pay the taxes, and then they basically give you the money back. But they always like to claim that, well, we're not giving them any money. The city will say, we're just doing a tax abate. They're just not paying taxes. Well, then why do we pay taxes? It's the cost of government. You pay taxes for the services that you use. That's the thought. So like if they did a tax abatement for every building in New Prague, the city's expenses wouldn't go up. They would stay the same. Their income or their revenue would drop. And they would have to levy that drop onto the existing taxpayers. So anytime, even though it's a small amount, if you do a tax abatement for some building, they're going to use services, whatever, police, fire, whatever services they're going to use. That's going to cost the city money. And if they're not paying taxes, those have to get paid for by the other taxpayers.
And just like you said, the ideas, right? You and I, and I'm sure Joey too, I know Joey does too, think this way, that's the goal, is to less taxes, and you flourish a lot better that way, where the statist wants the services. Don't you want these people to have this? Don't you want these people to have this? Well, not if it costs $10 million a service to create one electric charging station and $2 million to build this park with one swing set and all these codes and all this crap that, we were chatting earlier, and I want you to chat about then too. Well, let's keep going about this. The fire station or the police station.
So then they decide to sign a contract before they ever got any financing. Okay, so they went out for bids, and their thought process, which I think they just dreams. I didn't think they just assumed that this was going to happen, and they assumed that this was just going to happen, and we're just going to do it this way. So they went out for bid first, then signed a contract so then they could sell bonds for the exact amount. When in reality, what you could have done is what the fire station did, which is they have 2 resolutions that they do. The first one is called the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan, and it's a 5-year plan, and that requires a public hearing. And then the fire station waited 17 months between doing the SIP to then the second resolution is the bond sale. Say that we're going to sell bonds. They waited 17 months. So New Prague, when they did theirs, they had already signed a contract. That was already signed with the builder to build a police station before they even went out to do the plan or the bond sale. It both require public hearings. Well, they did them the same night. And the first time they did it, they forgot, and I think it was unintentional. They forgot to hold a public hearing. I've been watching this whole process for months. The developer would come up and do presentations, and the city council has shown that they do not let me or people talk. If it's not, they do have like a slot for items not on the agenda. But if I want to talk about the police station, and he goes up and does a presentation, they won't let us talk. People have tried to ask, may I talk? Nope, cannot talk.
While so the meeting.
What's that?
While they're talking about this subject.
Yep.
At the meeting.
Yes.
Citizens aren't allowed to.
Correct. Which they have every right to do. Yeah.
So they can exclude people from speaking.
They
but
can.
If they exclude everyone, then that's not a public hearing because the public have not been heard.
Well, at this point, they haven't even done a public hearing. This is just the excuse that a lot of people that are for the police station, they keep saying is that, well, it's been on the agenda. It's been talked about for years. Well, it really wasn't. Like, it was mentioned a while back, and then a few times they would come up, but it was never a public hearing. I couldn't talk about it. So I waited and waited. And then they go up to do the bond sale, and it says public hearing already happened. I'm like, no, it hasn't. I wanted to talk about this item, and it never happened. So they meant to have one. They skip it, and then they go to sell. They did the CIP and the bond sale about 3 minutes apart versus 17 months for the fire station. So they do one, they were intended to do one, skip it. So then they sell the bonds. Then they have a meeting to accept the bonds. And that's where I walk up and I say, hey, you guys sold these bonds. They did publish it in the newspaper, and I had the newspaper, I held it up. Here's the public hearing notice. And then tonight you have a resolution that says you held a public hearing on the 17th of March. Here's the agenda. No public hearings. Here's the meeting minutes. No public hearings. I watched the video. There was no public hearing. I was there, and so were all of you. And they couldn't remember. They didn't know. So they try to get a hold of the attorney, and he says he recommended they pass it anyways because they had no proof that the public hearing didn't actually happen.
Which is not the way that affirmative demonstration of evidence goes. You don't do the thing that is allegedly difficult to reverse unless you have proof that you are allowed to, rather than doing it because you don't think, or you're going to pretend you don't have proof that you can't do it.
How can there not be proof of a non-existent public hearing? There's only 7 days in a week and this many days in a month. And doesn't everything happen publicly?
Well, they have video. They have video.
That's what
the whole thing. And I watched it, and in like the minutes confirm it, and the agenda confirms it, and the video. And so then the next day they said, oh, okay, you know what? They emailed me and they said, you were right. So we have to start the whole process over.
Well, at least that's good faith, right? I mean,
So, well, yes. But mind you, they already signed a contract, right? So the first one they missed, the contract, the breaking ground hadn't happened. Okay. So they could claim, well, we had a public hearing and we didn't like what you guys said and we're going to move forward with it anyways. Well, then they had to start the process over. It was like a weeks long process. They had to put in the paper and 21 days, I think, ahead of time. And then they have a public hearing. But this time they already got fencing up, contract signed. They've already expensed like over $500,000 of stuff, for this project. And the equipment's out there, bulldozers, excavators. And it's like very clear that this public hearing doesn't mean anything.
yeah. What if it did? What if there were torches and pitchforks, man?
So we have the public hearing, and I forget how many spoke in favor and for against, but there was more people that were on my side that thought the scope was too large. It wasn't the right time. Our old station is old, but it's fine. And, let me talk about that real quick is we were ranked last year the 11th safest city in the state. Number 11.
Yeah.
With the current station that we have. So, they're claiming they don't do that. Well, guess what? Also, they're in their cop cars. Police officers are not in the station themselves. They're out in the cop cars. And then this department used to be the public works, the fire department, the police department, all of them in one building.
Yep.
And one by one, they built a new fire station. All the fire trucks move out. And then the parks department moved out. Well, every time they move out, the police department takes over that area. And they were garages mostly. So they just parked all their cop cars inside. You look at most apartments around here and in the state, they don't have indoor parking garages. So the police were claiming that, we're out of room. Well, in reality, you're parking all your cars inside. You could just park them outside. You can make a secure area, fence off an area, park the cars outside. You go through cars every three years, maybe. They get a new cop car. That's about the rotation, right? So who cares if it sits outside during that time? Half the time it'll be driven by a police officer.
It's amazing the illogic that comes when it comes to other people's money, right?
Yep.
We got to have the new stuff. You're seeing it all over the public works departments. Yep. And that's crazy, dude.
They claim it's embarrassing, and they claim that there's no women's bathroom. Well, one, I've actually heard that they use the fire station very often, which is in a different area than the city hall. The city hall is connected to the police station, but they actually go to the fire station to use those bathrooms because they're nicer. And then, like, you can see the logo for the police department where you stand, you walk up and talk to them. To your left, about 5 feet, is a women's bathroom.
So there isn't one, except it's photobombing all of the pictures of the front desk.
Yes. So maybe in the back area there isn't one, but there is in the front. I mean, and there's other ones in the building, like, so them claiming there's no women's bathroom. And like, you were on, around the Navy and stuff. On my ship, the security department, actually, specifically the security department, had one bathroom. And they had both male and female MAs, Master at Arms, right? Their solution? They had a little piece of hanger, plastic, that if a female went in there, she would hang it on the door. And so then people would know, we can't go in there because there's a female that's showering or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. Allegedly, these are all law enforcement professionals. You'd think they'd be able to handle something like that.
Yeah, we can't. No. And that's amazing, too, when you talk about it, like the bathroom thing and then the whole stupid ass bathroom debate that's gone on in literally gone on in Congress about who's able to use what bathroom. And
New Prague could have solved it. They just put a little, both sexes, right?
But they didn't even have that problem to solve. They had the bathroom. They're just lying about it, right? I mean, it wasn't even the problem. And the whole make and do with what you have, it really does seem like the thing that folks should have that mentality when they are public servants, or you know what I'm saying? And I feel like, and I do a lot of work with the utility departments around the east side of the cities here, and there are a lot of folks that are very resourceful when it comes to certain things, but some of that equipment does cost money, right? To hire me to come out and do that kind of stuff. It's definitely not cheap. So I think about that too, where it's like, I got to be as efficient as possible because City of Lake Elmo has to pay this, the taxpayers. And I'm sure there's budget things. And I know that they talk about that in the council meetings and whatever, when they're talking about these budgets, but I'm still a little confused as far as when you're talking about the bonds. So they sign the contract, which means the contractor says, here, I'll do this for this amount of money.
Yep.
Here's the plans, and I'll build this for this amount of money. And then the city then says, okay, now we have to sell bonds.
Yep. To an investor, wherever in the United States, so they say, hey, loan us money and we'll pay you interest. And they go out and they bid for the lowest interest rate that they can get. So that's kind of how that works. And some private institution that probably has a bunch of 401ks in it and stuff like that.
Then that's how those little easy, but it's still, yeah, that's where the 401ks, where you're in the little 3% market, your high risk or your low risk thing. And I always thought of that too. Like, risk, what happens when the American people finally realize that the whole dollar is worth nothing? And then that's where that kind of stuff doesn't even work.
So can you pull up the contract?
Sure.
The other document I had sent, and then I think it's on like might be page 7 or it's section
impact. Okay, no. So then,
so I bring up this point that they missed the public hearing, and then I bring up the point that they're going to continue with construction.
So this is the standard form of agreement between owner and contractor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It should be that. And I think it's section 7. I haven't looked at this in a few weeks, so let's see if my my memory is still good.
Okay, let me get over here.
So the city claims, while we sign a contract, we have no other choice. We have to find a way to fund this. The attorney in the meeting says, one of the council members that's not for this, Sean, you guys signed a contract. You could get sued for the entire amount of the contract. It's going to be a lot worse for you to leave the contract than it is to stay with it. So if we go down into section, there we go, termination. Okay. So
can you see that?
If you can make it a little bigger.
Let me see. Let me see if we go about this.
There we go. So section 7 could be terminated by the owner or the contractor, right? And then these are like standard forms that contractors sign, right? And so it says at the owner's convenience in accordance with Article 14. Okay. So that document, if you look up that one and reference it, it just says, in case of such termination of the owner's convenience, the contractor shall be entitled to receive payment for work executed and reasonable and substantiated cost, right? So it's not the full cost. And at the time I brought this up, they hadn't even really broke ground. They just got a bunch of stuff out there. They had some fences up, some dumpsters. They could have paused it. Look at 7.2. The work may be suspended. Okay. So instead of pausing it and wait for funding, like, okay, maybe they could have signed this and then wait for funding, or they could get out of this contract, but they didn't either. They continued to press forward with construction, right?
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, my point to these council members that agree with this and the attorney, which is, why would you sign a contract that you claim you can't get out of if you don't have funding? If you're going to claim you can get out of the contract and you signed it before, then okay, you sign a contract before you had funding, you can get out of it. But your guys' claim is that it's unbreakable and that we have to do this. And you don't even pause it until you wait to get funding.
Is that now that claim? That was where I was going to ask, like, where does that claim? That sounds like the guy that told the Florida DA that Epstein's connected to intelligence, but nobody knows where that came from. And this is information that actually changed the tide to something. Yep. And continued on and dug, literally, pun intended, dug the hole deeper.
As far as we can tell, the city attorney did not have any source for his claim that it would be more trouble than it was worth to break the contract and would require going to court. He said words to that effect, and it's just not true as far as we can tell.
And it's likely just something that statists have this in their mind, some of these things. And a dang lawyer probably is guilty of having that, even though he should know better.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes into lawyer speak with these squiggly lines and the numbers and all that stuff. And
hypothetically, at least, he would have reviewed this contract before allowing it to be signed by the city.
Well, what's interesting is one of the council members who is for this told me that she was an attorney for contract law. Like that was her specialty.
So in other words,
she knows double whammy of complacency.
But I think that they intentionally pressed forward to make the exit cost as high as possible, as fast as possible, so they can throw their hands up and say, we have no other choice.
After they kind of got their hands caught, and where then I feel like when it comes to this kind of stuff, I want to look at who has the incentive or the motive or whatever, right? And it's ultimately the engineering, the architect, engineering firm, and the contractor, who, in my experience, in my business, are like this on almost all projects, right? So you gotta, and it's crazy. I know personally people that sit on these boards for the Army Corps of Engineers decide who gets the job for this new building project, and this contractor, they're very qualified and they're this and this. Well, that contractor always uses this person to get their building supplies. Who sits on the board of the Army Corps of Engineers? The owner of that company.
Yeah.
Now that just seems so illegal to me when I first heard that, and I thought that's just ridiculous how that works. But even in a small town, but you're talking $10 million.
Yeah. You know? Well, it's funny, the price, I think it was like 10.8 or maybe a little over that. But like if you also add in the money the city already spent, that's not a part of that. They already spent money, and then the land has value, right? It's not free. They already owned it. They paid money for it that they had money tied up in. So we're talking like 12 million plus if you include all of that stuff for 12 officers. And I think the building has 3 people that will be in it full time. Otherwise, the officers will be on the streets driving around.
I didn't notice. Is this on the same property as the old building? Where is the city hall still in that building then, or what?
No. So this is going to get attached to the fire station that they built in a different area.
Okay.
Right. And it's across the street from a piece of property the city paid $1.1 million for a future city hall that, if you look at the tax rolls, is worth about $600,000 investment.
Wow.
So that'll be next. That's after the police station. Then they're going to be building the new city hall.
Awesome how government's pretty much the only ones who are able to lose money on real estate investments.
Oh my goodness, right? And still keep their jobs and get promotions and get to cut the ribbons and act all cool in the suit. I mean,
so they sign the contract. Then I'm sitting there ringing bells saying, hey, you guys need to pause. I'm going to sign, or I'm going to do a petition instead of waiting the petition period like the fire station did. Remember, the fire station did the SIP, waited 17 months. Then they did the bonds. Then they waited, I think, a month or months. And then they, for that petition period, so there's 30 days, they do a public hearing. So because they redid the whole process. I think it was June 2nd, they did the public hearing. And then you have 30 days to collect 5% of the votes cast last election. So that number was 244. So if someone got 244 signatures, then that forces the bond sale to let the city residents vote.
And Mr. Paulson, how many signatures were submitted?
So I submitted, I think it was like 543, 544 signatures. I needed 244. I had 30 days to collect it, and I think I spent 6 days collecting signatures.
Attaboy. Hell yeah.
My signature rate was about 4 out of 5. Every 5 people I got to answer a door, I got about 4 signatures.
Yeah, I see that porcupine behind you. We're both. Hell yeah.
Uh-oh, I lost you. Hold on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We lost your feed with a nice smile there.
Your mic is fine, I think, but your camera's frozen.
Uh-oh.
Now you're like me.
No.
Cameraless.
No, but Brian has been a heck of a porcupine activist, man, with the signatures, and it was no surprise that Brian was able to hit the ground running and collect all those signatures. That was really awesome. I remember when you accomplished that, man. That was really surprising. Not surprising, but really awesome. That no, come on, I'm not doing
Oh
this
my
solo.
God.
Join us, TJ. Podcasting started as an audio only medium. It will continue as one.
I'm not going to do that, but I don't want to stop without finishing this story.
Yeah, we should keep on topic.
Yeah,
Okay. I was so excited. I moved my computer. And so
I'm sorry. I was excited too because when you talk about signatures, I wanted to show that
Yeah.
porcupine, and this has been hanging in my office too.
So we got all the signatures, which was great. I had a bunch of other people volunteering. One thing that is very interesting about this is that I had a lot of the school teachers and school supporters that showed up to help and sign, because the school is going to be asking for money this year. And they know that the likelihood of theirs getting passed is a lot less if all the residents' taxes go up. So last year, our taxes went up over 10% from the city with no building. So then we have this facility. This was going to raise our taxes 13%. Just for this.
Yeah.
Not anything else, just this.
And how many policemen do we employ in New Prague?
I think it was 12. There's 12 police officers, I believe. So now the school is, supporters are very upset because now everyone's going to say no. They just can't take. You got all these tax increases from the county and the state and the feds and inflation, childcare, all this stuff, food. So then people are just going to say no. I can't afford it. I'd love to support the schools, but I'm not going to. So they were very, they were not happy about this, and the school has to go for a vote. They can't just lay taxes. Like, they have a certain increase they can do, but if they want to do more than, I don't know if it's the CPI, then they have to go to the people and ask for money, right? So they always have to go to the people. So I did a petition, and I hand them the petition in, and this is where it gets a little weird, as if this isn't weird yet. So it's my understanding, and I believe both of yours and the Secretary of State, that to do a petition, you have to go around and collect signatures, and to be eligible to sign that form, you have to, I think you actually can be a felon nowadays. I'm not sure if that disqualifies you, but you have to be 18 and you have to live within city limits. Okay. You have to be an eligible voter to sign the petition. Okay. Well, the city, and I asked for clarification, they just said they eventually did approve my petition, and they wouldn't give me any answers. Because I said, well, how'd you guys, verify these signatures? Well, they went and got the voter registry, and they're claiming to sign that not only do you have to be eligible, you have to be a registered voter. Well, there's lots of people that are not registered.
Yeah.
Right. So they threw out 25% of my signatures.
Which, for those who are not in the loop, is between a normal reject rate for petition signatures is between 5 and 10%. Anything above 12 is kind of high end. So 25 is like double the worst case that I've seen.
So they throw out anyone who is not a registered voter. Well, I had a lot of teachers and they like to vote, right? So a lot of them were registered. Well, it gets even more interesting. So I'm trying to get a copy of this voter registry, and they're claiming that it is restricted use and I'm not allowed to see it, even though there's the Data Protection, or is it Data Access Act?
FOIA?
You can ask for data, right? It's like the FOIA, but FOIA is for federal, right? So Minnesota has that. And they're supposed to take documents that I ask for and redact any private information and give it back to me. So what could be on this document that is private? Well, maybe it has the full birthday. I don't want the full birthday. I just need the year. That's all I need is the year. Their name, that's public. Their address, that's public. Okay. If it has any like phone number, which I don't think it has any of that kind of stuff on there, none of that should be public. And I don't want that. I just want the things that they used for my petition. And there's two ways that you can go around it. So what they're supposed to do is validate signatures. I need 244. I give them 550 about. They go through first signature. Yep, it's good. Next. Yep, it's good. Next. Oh, well, we don't see it on the registry. So we're not going to, maybe they're good. Maybe they're not, but we're not going to validate it, right? So they go through and they validate until you reach 244, then you stop. They did the opposite. They invalidated signatures. So they went through and then they would be like, oh, this one, their name is, and I suspect this. I'm trying to confirm it by getting a copy from them, but they won't give it to me. So I'm talking with the Secretary of State right now to try to work this out. But I believe there's people that said they are registered voters. They know they're registered, but they wrote their name Tim, Smith. Well, the registry said Timothy.
Yeah.
Or people's last names were hyphenated and they wrote, Johnson Smith, and they signed the petition form Johnson.
I still think that voter registry is a BS.
Yep.
Mark
they can
anyways,
use it.
Minnesota.
They can use the voter registry to verify names. I'm
Yeah,
fine
to
with
affirmatively validate names.
Yeah.
Right. But it should not be used to invalidate names. Okay. And then they had like one of them, it was funny. They said they couldn't read the name, ineligible signature, wrong birthday. Well, how do you know that's the wrong birthday if you can't read the name? And then they had people that were like same last name, line after line, same address, like clearly lived together.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, illegible name. Like you can tell what their last name is because of the person above it. Or they couldn't read the address and they're like you can read the address because of the one before or after it, right? I'm just walking down the street. So it was just comical how many they threw out. And then the best of all of them, I saved it for last. Each petition has 11 lines. You can collect, 10 lines. You can collect 10 signatures. An 11th person signed it and they threw out all 10 signatures.
Was this on 11 by 14 too, or 8.5 by 14?
No. 8.5 by 11 is allowed for petition.
Okay.
But yeah, I had an 11th person sign a petition form and they said too many signatures, signature invalid for every number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of them, everyone on the page.
Okay. And this is just members of the city council, or is this somebody on their staff?
This is the staff. The city council doesn't do this.
Presumably the city administrator and or the city attorney would be involved in this, or would delegate their authority to someone who would do this.
Gosh, I really would love to witness this and just see what kind of nerve and what is the purpose of, unless there really is the goal to inhibit you from moving on.
Yeah, I think they were trying to stop it. And then now I'm not trying to fight it. I'm not going to take it to court because it did pass, right? My point is I want to know for the future, did you guys invalidate names that you shouldn't have? Because in the future, maybe I do another petition. I want to know what the expectations are. What's allowed and what's not allowed.
Absolutely. Well, going into the game, you need to know the rules.
Right. And I asked them before I started on some of these questions, and they told me to consult an attorney.
So for things like the question of, is full legal name required? Would that include middle initial or full middle name? Yep. If you had asked a question like that, they would have given you the answer, well, I don't know, go talk to a lawyer or something, bud. Yeah.
Even though they're the ones that are going to validate it, like they're the ones that decided what is or isn't good, and
they just refused to provide you with any criteria. Now, granted, they're not obligated to provide you with any criteria, correct, but then you expect that they're going to use a fair set of criteria to assess your signatures.
Why wouldn't they be obligated though? I don't understand. Or it's got to be written somewhere then.
So, no, the city is not obligated.
No, the city relies on the state for guidance, and the state doesn't provide guidance.
Well, the state has the statutes, and that's
what the state has the statutes, but the statutes don't. The statutes say what needs to be on the petition, but they don't say how where exactly on a gray line you should draw the line to say that this is not valid. That's something that's left up to the agencies or the agents to determine when they're performing a validation, and there's no publicly available guidance from the state for cities or for the general public on that.
Nowhere does it say they have to be registered. They could not provide that information. Nowhere does it say if an 11th person signs it, it's not valid. It says what is needed And it's really to prove that that person exists, right? And if they write their name wrong and they wrote something that's not matching the registry, all that's needed is for me to go to that person's house and say, hey, do you exist? Like that is really what is required, is that an eligible voter actually did sign it. You know, it's nothing to do with the registry. You can use the registry to validate names, but you can't use it to invalidate names.
So, for example, if they'd been able to use the registry to validate 242 names, well, then they need to go do legwork to try to validate the remaining 2 in order to hit the minimum threshold.
Man, my experience with the Secretary of State office with the signatures and stuff. Now, I've always wanted to be a fly on the wall and witness when they're, yes, no, and
yeah,
I don't even know if they ever told me how many out of how many that were qualified or not. I think they just said, you're good. You're accepted.
Yep,
And
with candidate petition signatures, that's generally how it works, is you turn in your pile of signature forms, and then a few days later, you're either given a green light or you're not.
A few days? Yeah. That both times I think I waited the full 10 days that they were allotted. Anyways, which, okay, that's really my only gripe, because everyone that I've ever contacted there were pretty helpful in any of the information and all the experiences when they were handed in the petitions and stuff. And like last year was with Rebecca, and they sat there and counted the 100 pages or a couple hundred pages that she had, or 1,000, I can't remember. It was pretty interesting that to think of the attitude of those folks in what you're dealing with, but then to know that they know you now because you're quite active and coming to your city council meetings, which is a good thing. But then what kind of motive do these people, a staff member in the city council, unless they are told to, I don't know.
I think I'm just maybe a thorn, and they view me as a roadblock.
And they think they can just go like this and you're going to go away, and all that's going to do is drive the barbs into their skin more.
I'm just going to keep showing up. And then, the petition had kind of 2 goals. We'll continue with, I guess what the process that's happening. So now they accepted it. And then the city council has another option. They don't have to sell these bonds. In fact, what they're going to do is
we should be clear about what the petition does.
Okay.
The petition doesn't prevent them per se from issuing the bonds. What it does is it makes them wait until after a public vote.
Well, close. Well, so they don't have any laws that say you can do a petition for a police station or you can do a petition for a fire station, right? So what the law was is they say, well, what these big ticket items, if a city is going to sell bonds, they need to get voter approval, and they don't have to get it, but maybe the city council goes against all the residents. Then the residents need an option to stop the funding, which really is what you need to build a building, right? Whatever it may be. So the petition has to be on the funding. So the petition I did was on the bonds. It was not on the police station. So I had to say that we want to vote on the bond sale. That was the only thing that I could do. That was the only way I could stop it, slow it, reduce the scope. That was my only avenue, was to do a petition for the bond sale. Well, what the city can do is they can say, you know what? We can let you vote, or we can wait 12 months. That's another option. They can't sell any bonds for 12 months, and then they can do it again, right? My petition is good for 12 months. But in the meantime, the city can actually go to the EDA, Economic Development Authority, which is a board of mostly business owners here in New Prague that are appointed by the city council.
Yeah, and it's an organization that was established under the authority of the city council.
And they can
sell bonds. An act of the city council created the organization.
Yes, and they can sell bonds. And there's no petition that you can do to stop them. And then they rent the police station to the city, and the city levies those taxes onto its residents, completely getting around a public vote. So that's what they're doing right now. The last meeting, they said they're going to pursue the EDA option, have the EDA sell these bonds, and then rent the facility to the city.
which, to be clear, is a more expensive option than the bonds, per the advice given to the city council by a bank that was helping them facilitate this, or a financial services
So it
company.
is, yes, it is slightly more expensive, and it was a risk I was willing to take.
Well, you're not forcing them to do this; they're the ones
Right.
choosing to disregard the will of people.
Yes.
But a lot of idiot politic people would say, "Oh, because of you," because
right now, one guy in particular on Facebook is trying to make a point that Brian Paulson, is costing the new Prague City taxpayers $1.2 million.
Oh my God.
1/10 of the building cost is because of me, which he's actually doing his math wrong, because the 1.2 million is after interest, and after interest, we're talking about a $20 million facility. But he uses ChatGPT and doesn't know how to check it. So he's trying to claim that, and I actually am advocating that if the city is in fact going to press this through and use all of its political capital, that they should change the term from 30-year to 25 or 20-year. The police or the fire station was 20-year amortization, and the one council member who was a bank president wanted to push it out from 25 to 30, because Ellers initially recommended 25-year, and it saved the average house $10 a year to change it from 25 to 30-year. It cost $2 million in interest. It added. So it's like, Jesus, make it 25, pay the extra $10 a year, and we're going to pay $2 million less, in taxes. But the reason wasn't the annual payment. It was that they wanted residents that move here in the future in 25 to 30 years from now to chip in for the project. That was their reasoning.
With all indications saying that those residents aren't coming, but yeah.
So now we got it going to the EDA. And that was kind of my thing when I started the petition. It was one of two things will happen. Either we're going to reduce the scope, or the city residents are going to be woken up and they're going to be paying attention. And that's what happened. Now people are really paying attention, and hopefully we'll decrease our slow our tax increases down a little bit. And then I guess another thing before we get done here is the mayor that we had during this process that signed that contract resigned.
And then wasn't he supposed to come back or something? That was another.
Well, so he resigned, Dwayne Jurek, and then I think it was the next meeting they had an item to discuss how to fill the seat, and you could do 3 things. I think you could send it to the people to vote, have a special election. If it's less than 2 years of a term, which it's 1.5, so it is, you can appoint somebody, or you can take applications and appoint somebody. And coincidentally, during the meeting, someone that hasn't been there the entire time I've been going, and I don't think it's been there for a long time, was our previous mayor, the one from 2010 to 2020. He just happened to be in the room, and they said, "Hey, you wanna get back in the game?" And on the spot, didn't take any applications. They debated for about 3 minutes and then appointed him to be the new mayor.
So Mr. Once and future mayor just happened to have been there for no particular reason.
Is it a coincidence?
No,
I think not. That is very interesting, isn't it? Like they knew that was, well, whether it's not a coincidence, whether it's that someone else from the council said, "Hey, dude, come here today," or was it on an agenda that he could have been paying attention to, that he said, "Hey,"
they had talked. It was brought up, and they didn't elaborate too much, but there were comments made that it was very clearly discussed previously. So
it's kind of thing like it's a dang TV show, isn't it? To folks like us that have things to do in our life, like real things to do, and these folks are really plotting and scheming on working for the city to do what? That produces zero. The government produces nothing, and that's the other part of the statist mentality that I can't remember if we already went over that on the show or when it was you and I talking. When just the thought of this for this, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's a constant battle between us and them of how they feel about value, and things.
And they expect us to pay attention and watch every school board meeting, every county meeting, every city council meeting.
Right.
And that's just right here. And then that doesn't include state, federal, all those.
Exactly.
I'm a guy with 3 kids and a wife.
Man.
I can't. It's not.
And I tell you what, Brian, I absolutely appreciate everything you do for us too, and for your family and everything. Man, I really do see that you're putting in a lot of work, man. You and Joey both are great assets to this party. And
I have to give Joey a shout out because he came and helped collect signatures when I had a signature gathering drive. Him and Eric showed up, and so that was a great help because. But I think they did enjoy it. I kind of putting words in your mouth there, but I think it was the easiest petitioning you've ever done.
It was definitely the easiest petitioning I've ever done.
Well,
I had a similar success rate to yours. If I could get 5 people to answer the door, 4 of them would sign.
Right on. That's awesome, man. Joey is always showing up, and I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate that. Eric too. And Eric, if you're watching, hey, everybody, State Fair, if you need to sign up, which I still do need to sign up. We need volunteers for the State Fair, and that's going to be a lot of fun. But do you got anything else to add? I just wanted to say that when we were talking about Eric there. And
I'll be there the 28th evening and the 29th the Friday during the day. So if anyone wants to stop by, I can. Like this the whole thing here, I didn't even brush up on my notes. I just know it all off the top.
You went over it, and when you lost the camera, I put on the screen the timeline that the city provided. I got that off the city council or the city website, which doesn't include anything about your petition. It actually does say in there that with no petition, April, with no reverse referendum petition submitted, the city council opens bids. And so their
timeline was conveniently last updated before the petition signatures were submitted.
Yeah, they're referencing the missed public hearing. So they're claiming that they did the public hearing. We happened to not do it, but we thought we did it. And then we sold bonds because no one submitted a petition. That was what that bullet point is for. But yeah, I couldn't have submitted a petition because there was no public hearing.
Yeah. Well, that's the wicked cycle that never actually took place, right? Yeah. Real cool. Brian, thanks for coming on, man. Joey, also, I appreciate you as always. And I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. Hey, if you got local affiliates, for more information, go to lpmn.org. I don't have the
/events or just the events button on the website will take you to a list of all our upcoming events. If you would like to join or donate, those buttons are also at the top of the website.
There it is. That was usually running. Yeah, man, come on, sign up and let's have some fun. And the fair, that's going to be some fun. Do you think we're going to have some people that are running for Senate walking around and trying to make themselves known?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. By my understanding, there are no legally binding campaign announcements that have happened as of yet, but we'll see what occurs.
I guess the governor too, right? That's an election coming up this year in 26. So that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, folks. Well, you guys have a great night. Thanks, Joey. Thanks, Brian.
All right. I'll see you guys.
Take care.